The morning sun peeked through the blinds as Maya Chen packed her backpack with careful precision. Math textbooks, science notes, her dog-eared copy of The Count of Monte Cristo, and the lunch she'd made herself, cucumber sandwich, apple slices, and a small container of yogurt. Her father had already left for his early shift at the hospital, leaving a sticky note on the fridge that read, "Have a great day, little dragon." "Love you," Maya smiled at the nickname, a nod to her 6 years of training at Master Wu's martial arts academy. Maya checked her reflection in the hallway mirror, dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, oversized sweater hiding her small frame, glasses sitting slightly crooked on her nose. She adjusted them with a practiced touch and headed out the door. The walk to Westlake High took exactly 12 minutes. Maya timed it every day, leaving her house at 7:38 to arrive at school by 7:50, giving her 10 minutes to reach her locker and get to first period before the final bell. She liked having a routine. Routines were safe, predictable, unlike people. As she approached the school building, the familiar knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach. Westlake High was a sprawling complex of brick and concrete, housing over 1,500 students. To Maya, it might as well have been 15,000. The noise, the chaos, the constant social navigation, it was exhausting. She took a deep breath and slipped through the front doors, keeping her head down and her footsteps quick. "Hey, watch where you're going." A tall boy in a varsity jacket bumped into her shoulder as he passed, not even bothering to look back. Maya mumbled a quiet, "Sorry," though she wasn't at fault. This was her strategy. Apologize, stay quiet, remain invisible. It had worked well enough for the past 2 years of high school. She reached her locker without further incident and spun the combination lock with nimble fingers. The inside of her locker door was bare except for a small calendar, where she tracked assignment due dates in neat, color-coded writing. No photos, no decorations, nothing to draw attention. "Did you finish the chemistry homework?" The voice beside her belonged to Raj, one of the few people at Westlake who Maya actually spoke to regularly. He wasn't exactly a friend. Maya didn't really have those, but he was nice enough and they'd been paired as lab partners since freshman year. "Yeah," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The last problem was tricky. You have to account for the temperature change," Raj groaned. "I knew I was missing something. Any chance I could here?" Maya handed him her notebook. "Just don't make it obvious you're copying. You're a lifesaver. I'll get it back to you before third period." He flashed her a grateful smile and hurried off. Maya watched him go, wondering what it would be like to move through the world with such ease. Raj talked to everyone, joined clubs, raised his hand in class. The thought of doing any of those things made Maya's heart race. The first warning bell rang and she grabbed her books for English class. As she turned, a group of students burst through the main doors, laughing loudly. At the center of the pack was Tyler Brooks. Everyone at Westlake knew Tyler. Basketball team captain, son of the town's former mayor, with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. He moved through the hallway like he owned it, high-fiving friends and nodding at teachers who seemed charmed by his easy smile despite his mediocre grades. Maya pressed herself against the lockers, willing herself to become part of the metal surface. It wasn't that Tyler had ever specifically targeted her. She was too invisible for that. But she'd seen what happened to kids who caught his attention. The jokes that weren't really jokes, the casual cruelty disguised as playful teasing, the way he could turn someone's difference into a spectacle for his friends' entertainment. Today, Tyler's target appeared to be a freshman boy who'd made the mistake of wearing a bright purple sweater. "Nice outfit, buddy," Tyler called out, his voice carrying down the hallway. "My grandma has the same one." The boy's face flushed red as Tyler's friends erupted in laughter. Maya felt a flash of anger, quickly followed by relief that she wasn't in the boy's place. She slipped into her classroom just as the final bell rang. English class was Maya's favorite. Ms. Reynolds didn't call on students randomly, and discussions were thoughtful rather than competitive. Today they were analyzing themes in To Kill a Mockingbird, and Maya had filled the margins of her book with notes she'd never share aloud. The way people in Make 'em Treat Boo Radley shows how we fear. What we don't understand, Kelly Wu was saying. They make up stories about him because it's easier than facing their own ignorance. Ms. Reynolds nodded. "Excellent point, Kelly. Any other thoughts?" Maya's hand twitched in her lap. She had thoughts, pages of them, but the idea of all those eyes turning toward her made her throat close up. Instead, she wrote another note in her margin. Fear of the unknown? Fear of ourselves? The rest of the morning passed in a blur of classes. In history, Mr. Patel announced a group project and Maya felt the familiar panic rise. Group projects meant talking, coordinating, depending on others. Before she could spiral further, Mr. Patel added, "I'll be assigning the groups," and Maya exhaled. At least she wouldn't have to endure the humiliation of standing alone, while everyone else paired up with friends. By lunchtime, Maya's social battery was nearly depleted. Rather than brave the cacophony of the cafeteria, she headed to her usual spot in the courtyard, a quiet corner near the science building with a bench partially hidden by overgrown bushes. Here she could eat in peace and read her book without the constant awareness of being watched. Judged, found wanting, she unwrapped her sandwich and opened The Count of Monte Cristo to where she'd left off. Edmond Dantes was plotting his elaborate revenge, a concept Maya found both fascinating and terrifying. The idea of standing up to those who had wronged you, of demanding justice, it seemed as foreign to her as flying. At Master Wu's dojo, things were different. There Maya wasn't shy or awkward. Her body knew exactly what to do, moving through forms with grace and precision that surprised new students. Your strength isn't in your size, Master Wu often told her. It's in your focus, your discipline, your technique. But school wasn't the dojo. At school, Maya was just the quiet Asian girl who got good grades and never caused trouble. She was so absorbed in her book that she didn't notice the shadow falling across her page until it was too late. Well, look who we have here. The voice belonged to Zach, one of Tyler's friends. It's the ghost girl. Maya kept her eyes on her book, hoping they'd get bored and move on. It had worked before. What are you reading that's so interesting? Another voice, closer now. Tyler. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. She could feel them surrounding her. Tyler, Zach, and at least two others. Where had they come from? Why weren't they at lunch in the cafeteria? Hey, I'm talking to you. Tyler's tone had an edge to it now. Maya raised her eyes, keeping her expression neutral. Just a book for English, she said softly. Just a book, Tyler mimicked, his voice a high-pitched parody of hers. His friend snickered. You think you're so much smarter than everyone, don't you? Always with your nose in a book, never talking to anyone. What's your deal? Maya's mind raced. She'd seen this pattern before. Tyler getting bored, looking for entertainment, finding someone vulnerable. She'd just never been the target before. I don't think I'm smarter, she said, closing her book and gathering her things. Excuse me, I need to go. Oh, she needs to go, Tyler said, stepping closer. What's the rush? Lunch just started. He looked at his friends. Doesn't she seem rude? We're just trying to have a friendly conversation. Maya stood, her legs steadier than she expected. 6 years of training had taught her to control her body even when her mind was in turmoil. Please let me pass. For a moment, Tyler seemed taken aback by her direct request. Then his eyes narrowed. Let you pass? Sure, of course. But first, what are you hiding in that book? Love notes? Diary entries about your crush? He reached for the book in her hands. Maya took a step back, clutching the book to her chest. It wasn't expensive, just a paperback from the school library, but the thought of Tyler's hands on it made her stomach turn. Come on, don't be like that, Tyler said, his tone mock hurt. I just want to see what's so interesting. He stepped forward again, crowding her space. Maya felt the bench hit the back of her legs. She was trapped unless she wanted to climb over it or push past Tyler and his friends. The thought of either option made panic rise in her throat. In the distance, the bell rang, signaling the end of lunch period. Relief washed over Maya. Surely they'd leave now, head to class rather than risk being late. But Tyler didn't move. We've still got a few minutes, he said, as if reading her thoughts. Plenty of time to get to know each other better. One of the girls in the group, Brittany or Bethany, Maya couldn't remember, shifted uncomfortably. Tyler, we should go. Mr. Garcia gives detention if you're late. Tyler waved her off. You guys go ahead. I'll catch up. To Maya's dismay, the others drifted away, leaving her alone with Tyler. The courtyard had emptied as students headed to afternoon classes. So, Tyler said, his smile not reaching his eyes, you going to show me what's in that book, or do I have to take it? Maya took a deep breath. She thought of her father's note, Little Dragon, and of Master Wu's voice. Your strength isn't in your size. It's just a library book, she said, her voice steadier than before. I need to get to class. Tyler's smile faded. He wasn't used to people standing up to him, even in this small way. What did you say to me? Maya met his gaze, something she'd never done before. His eyes were blue, she noticed. Not cold like in movies, just ordinary blue. Human. It made him less frightening somehow. I said I need to get to class, she repeated. Please move. For a moment, it seemed like he might step aside. Then his face hardened. No one tells me what to do, he said, reaching for her arm. Especially not some nobody who thinks she's better than everyone else. As his hand closed around her wrist, Maya felt a strange calm settle over her. In the dojo, this moment had played out hundreds of times. An opponent grabbing, thinking size meant strength, not realizing their mistake until it was too late. She had a choice to make. And in 10 seconds, everything would change. Time seemed to slow down as Tyler's fingers tightened around Maya's wrist. His grip wasn't painful, not yet, but the intent was clear. This wasn't a friendly gesture or an accident. This was control. Let go of me, Maya said, her voice so quiet it was almost lost in the empty courtyard. Tyler leaned closer, his cologne too strong, too adult for a high school boy. What was that? I couldn't hear you. The mocking tone was back, but there was something else beneath it now. Frustration that she wasn't playing along, wasn't giving him the fear or tears he expected. Maya raised her chin and met his eyes directly. I said, let go of me. Each word was clear, deliberate. Something flickered across Tyler's face, surprise, maybe even respect, before his features hardened again. Or what, you'll run to a teacher? Tell them the big bad basketball player was mean to you? He tugged her wrist, pulling her closer. Nobody would believe you anyway. You know that, right? Maya didn't respond. Her mind was calm now, focused. Master Wu had taught her that panic was the enemy in a confrontation. Breathe from your center, he always said. The body follows the mind. She was breathing from her center now, feeling the ground solid beneath her feet. Tyler might be a foot taller and 70 pounds heavier, but physics didn't care about size. Physics cared about leverage, momentum, balance. Hey, I'm talking to you, Tyler said, giving her arm another tug, harder this time. What's with the weird Zen face? You think you're too good to be scared of me? Maya took another deep breath. Please let go of my arm and step back. One last chance. Tyler's face flushed red. This wasn't going the way his encounters usually went. The quiet kids, the weird kids, the different kids, they were supposed to stammer, look away, maybe cry. They weren't supposed to look him in the eye and make demands. You know what your problem is? He said, yanking her forward so suddenly that she stumbled. You think you're special. But you're not. You're just... What Maya was, Tyler never got to say. In one fluid motion, she stepped into his space rather than pulling away. Her free hand found his wrist, thumb pressing precisely where tendons met bone. Her hip bumped against his, and then she was turning, ducking, using his own momentum and weight against him. The move was so smooth, so unexpected, that Tyler had no time to react. One moment he was looming over her, the next he was airborne, then flat on his back on the hard concrete of the courtyard. Oof! The air left his lungs in a rush. His eyes were wide with shock, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Maya wasn't done. Before Tyler could recover, she was on one knee beside him, still holding his wrist but now with his arm extended and locked. It was a standard control position, one she'd practiced hundreds of times at the dojo. It looked almost gentle from a distance, but Maya knew that the slightest upward pressure would send waves of pain through Tyler's shoulder and elbow. What the? Tyler tried to sit up, only to freeze when Maya applied the tiniest increase in pressure. Ow, what are you doing? Let go. Are you going to leave me alone? Maya asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her body. She wasn't hurting him, not really, just holding him in place. Tyler's face was a storm of emotions, shock, anger, embarrassment, and something that looked almost like fear. Yes, let go, you psycho! Maya held the position for a moment longer, then released him and backed away quickly, getting to her feet. Her heart was pounding now, the calm of combat fading as the reality of what she'd just done began to sink in. Tyler scrambled to his feet, rubbing his wrist and shoulder. His face was bright red, eyes darting around to see if anyone had witnessed his humiliation. The courtyard was still empty, the last stragglers having hurried to class at the final bell. But as Tyler took a step toward Maya, his expression murderous, a voice cut through the tension. "What's going on out here?" Mrs. Nguyen, the vice principal, was standing at the entrance to the courtyard, arms folded across her chest. Her sharp eyes moved from Tyler to Maya and back again. "Nothing," Tyler said quickly, dropping his hand from his shoulder. "We were just messing around." Mrs. Nguyen's eyebrows rose. "Messing around? During class time?" She checked her watch pointedly. "You're both late for 5th period." "Sorry," Maya said, finding her voice. "We were just—" "Save it," Mrs. Nguyen cut her off. "Both of you to my office, now." Maya's stomach dropped. In 6 years at Master Wu's, she'd never used her training outside the dojo, and her first time doing so had been witnessed by the strictest administrator in school. She'd always been the quiet student who never caused trouble, who teachers barely noticed. Now she was being marched to the vice principal's office. Tyler walked a few paces ahead of her, his back rigid. Maya could practically feel the anger radiating off him. She clutched her book tightly, trying to control her trembling hands. The main office was busy with student aides, delivering messages and parents signing kids out for appointments. Mrs. Nguyen ushered them through to her private office and closed the door. "Sit," she said, pointing to 2 chairs in front of her desk. Maya perched on the edge of her seat, trying to make herself as small as possible. Tyler sprawled in his chair, affecting a casual pose that didn't quite hide his tension. Mrs. Nguyen sat behind her desk and folded her hands. "Would either of you like to explain why you were in the courtyard during 5th period?" Silence stretched between them. Maya stared at her hands, mind racing. Should she tell the truth? Would anyone believe her? "It was my fault," Tyler said suddenly. I was giving her a hard time about her book. Things got out of hand." Maya's head snapped up in surprise. Was Tyler Brooks actually taking responsibility? Mrs. Nguyen's expression remained neutral. "Out of hand how exactly?" Tyler shifted in his seat. "I was just joking around, but I guess I took it too far." "No big deal. Miss Chen?" Mrs. Nguyen turned her gaze to Maya. "Is that what happened?" Maya hesitated. This was her chance to tell the truth, to report Tyler's behavior. But what would that accomplish? Would it make things better or worse? And he had admitted to starting it, which was more than she'd expected. "I overreacted," she said finally, the words feeling strange in her mouth. "He was teasing me and I got upset. I'm sorry." Mrs. Nguyen looked between them, her expression making it clear she didn't believe either of them fully. "I see. Well, regardless of what happened, you're both in violation of school rules. No students are permitted outside during class hours without a pass." She pulled out a pad of detention slips and began writing. "You'll both serve detention tomorrow after school." 1 hour. Tyler groaned but didn't argue. Maya nodded, accepting the punishment even as her mind raced with how she would explain this to her father. "And Mr. Brooks," Mrs. Nguyen added, "I'll be informing Coach Davis about this incident. He may have additional consequences for you." That got Tyler's attention.
"What? But that's not fair."
"We both broke the same rule." "Yes, but you're a student athlete with specific conduct requirements. Actions have consequences." Mrs. Nguyen handed them each a pink slip. "You're both dismissed to 5th period. Take these passes so your teachers know where you've been." They left the office in silence, stopping in the main hallway where they would go in opposite directions. Maya to advanced chemistry, Tyler to world history. "This isn't over," Tyler said, his voice low enough that only Maya could hear. She expected to see anger in his eyes, maybe even hatred. Instead, she saw confusion and something that looked almost like respect. "I didn't tell her what really happened," Maya said softly. "I could have." Tyler's jaw tightened. "Yeah, well, neither did I." He took a step closer. "Where did you learn to do that?" "That thing?" "Martial arts. I've been training for 6 years." 6 years? Tyler looked her up and down as if seeing her for the first time. "But you're so small," Maya supplied. "Size doesn't matter as much as you think." A strange expression crossed Tyler's face, then he shook his head. "Whatever. Just stay out of my way." He turned and walked away. The pink detention slip crumpled in his fist. Maya watched him go, a complex mix of emotions swirling inside her. Pride that she'd stood up for herself, worry about the detention and what her father would say, and something else, something unexpected. A sense of being seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time since coming to Westlake High. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Maya couldn't focus on her classes, replaying the incident in the courtyard over and over in her mind. Had she done the right thing? Would there be consequences beyond detention? What would happen when she faced Tyler again? As the final bell rang, Maya hurried to her locker, hoping to grab her things and leave before running into Tyler or his friends. But as she rounded the corner, she saw Raj waiting by her locker, a concerned expression on his face. "Hey," he said as she approached. "Where were you 5th period? Mr. Harris asked if anyone had seen you." Maya busied herself with her locker combination. "I got held up. Had to go to the office." "You? In the office?" Raj sounded genuinely shocked. "What happened?" Maya hesitated, then decided on a version of the truth. "Tyler Brooks was giving me a hard time about my book. Things escalated." Raj's eyes widened. "Wait, you stood up to Tyler? What did you do?" For a moment, Maya considered downplaying what had happened, returning to her role as the invisible girl. But something had shifted inside her. The girl who had flipped Tyler Brooks onto his back couldn't go back to being completely invisible. "I showed him that appearances can be deceiving," she said, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Raj looked at her with new interest. "There's a story here, isn't there?" Maya nodded, surprising herself. "Yeah, there is. But I need to get to the dojo. Master Wu doesn't like it when we're late." "Master Wu," Raj repeated. "Okay, now you definitely have to tell me everything tomorrow." "Maybe I will," Maya said, closing her locker. And the strangest thing was, she meant it. As she walked toward the exit, Maya spotted Tyler by the water fountain, surrounded by his usual group of friends. Their eyes met briefly across the crowded hallway. Tyler looked away first. Something had changed today, Maya realized. And whether it was for better or worse, there was no going back. News traveled fast at Westlake High. By the time Maya arrived at school the next morning, the story of what had happened in the courtyard had spread like wildfire, growing more dramatic with each retelling. In some versions, she was a black belt who had beaten Tyler unconscious. In others, they had been secretly dating and had a lover's quarrel. The truth, as usual, was somewhere in between. Maya kept her head down as she walked to her locker, uncomfortably aware of the whispers and stares following her. Being invisible had its advantages. Now she felt exposed like a creature suddenly thrust into the spotlight after a lifetime in darkness. "There she is," someone whispered as she passed. "I heard she's trained in some secret fighting style." Another voice added, "My cousin has a class with Tyler. He said Tyler's whole arm is in a sling." Maya almost laughed at that one. She hadn't hurt Tyler, not really. Just his pride. When she reached her locker, Raj was already waiting, practically bouncing with excitement. "Okay, you have to tell me everything," he said, falling into step beside her as she gathered her books. "And don't leave anything out. Is it true you flipped him over your shoulder? Did you really put him in a chokehold until he passed out?" Maya shook her head. "None of that is true. It wasn't a big deal." "Not a big deal? The whole school is talking about it. No one stands up to Tyler Brooks, let alone—" He lowered his voice. "Beats him in a fight." "It wasn't a fight," Maya insisted, closing her locker. "I just reacted. And now we both have detention." End of story, but Raj wasn't satisfied. "Come on, Maya. You've been at this school for 2 years and I've never seen you so much as raise your voice. Then suddenly you're taking down the basketball team captain." "Something changed," Maya sighed. Maybe he was right. Maybe something had changed. Not just in how others saw her, but in how she saw herself. "I've been taking martial arts since I was 10, she said finally. "My dad signed me up after—" She hesitated. "After my mom died. He thought it would help me feel stronger, more in control." Raj's expression softened. "I didn't know about your mom." "I'm sorry." Maya nodded, accepting his sympathy without comment. She rarely talked about her mother, whose absence was a quiet ache she had learned to live with. "Anyway, when Tyler grabbed me, I just did what I've been trained to do. It was instinct." "Well, your instincts are pretty amazing," Raj said. "You're like a secret superhero or something." The bell rang, saving Maya from having to respond. "I have to get to class," she said, grateful for the excuse. "This conversation isn't over," Raj called after her. "Lunch, same spot as usual?" Maya hesitated, then nodded. For the first time since coming to Westlake, she actually wanted to talk to someone about her morning classes, passed in a blur of sidelong glances and whispered, Conversations that stopped when she looked up. Ms. Reynolds had to call on her, twice in English before she heard her name. Even the teachers seemed to be looking at her differently, with a mixture of curiosity and concern. By lunchtime, Maya was exhausted from the constant attention. She headed to her usual spot in the courtyard, only to find it already occupied by a group of ninth-grade girls who looked up at her with wide eyes. "Oh my God. It's her," one of them whispered loudly. "Should we move?" another asked. Maya backed away, her cheeks burning. "No, it's fine. I'll find somewhere else." She turned and nearly collided with Raj, who was carrying 2 lunch trays. "I thought you might want to eat inside today," he said, nodding toward the cafeteria. "I saved us seats." Maya hesitated. She avoided the cafeteria whenever possible. Too noisy, too many people, too many opportunities for social disasters. But the thought of finding another quiet spot, only to be gawked at like some zoo exhibit, was equally unappealing. "Okay," she said finally. "Thanks." The cafeteria was as chaotic as she remembered, a sea of bodies and noise. Raj led her to a table in the corner where 2 other students were already sitting. Priya, who was in Maya's advanced math class, and Leon, who played clarinet in the school band. "You guys know Maya, right?" Raj said as they sat down. Priya nodded. "We have calculus together. You always know the answers when Mr. Wu calls on you." "And you're the girl who took down Tyler Brooks," Leon added, his eyes bright with admiration. Maya winced. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" Priya asked. "Because the story I heard involved roundhouse kicks and flying tackles." Despite herself, Maya smiled. "No kicks or tackles. Just a simple hip throw and joint lock." She took a bite of her sandwich, then noticed they were all staring at her. "What? Nothing," Raj said. "It's just, that's the most I've ever heard you say at once." Maya felt her cheeks grow warm again, but it wasn't entirely unpleasant. For the first time, people were interested in what she had to say. Not just about the incident with Tyler, but about her training, her interests, her thoughts. As lunch went on, Maya found herself relaxing. Leon was funny in a quiet, deadpan way that made her laugh despite herself. Priya was sharp and asked insightful questions about jujitsu. And Raj, whom she'd known for 2 years but never really talked to, turned out to have a passion for old movies that matched her own. They were so engrossed in their conversation that Maya didn't notice the hush falling over the cafeteria until it was too late. She looked up to find Tyler Brooks standing at their table, alone for once without his usual entourage. The bruise on his jaw was barely visible, but his stiff posture suggested soreness in his shoulder and back. His eyes met Maya's, and for a moment neither of them spoke. "Can we talk?" he said finally. "Alone?" Maya felt her new friends tense around her. Raj started to say something, but she cut him off with a small shake of her head. "It's okay," she said, standing up. "I'll be right back." She followed Tyler to the edge of the cafeteria, aware of the hundreds of eyes tracking their movement. Whatever happened next would surely be the subject of gossip for days to come. Tyler stopped near the empty lunch line, turning to face her with an unreadable expression. "I have some things to say to you," he began, his voice low. Maya braced herself for threats or accusations. Instead, what came next surprised her more than anything that had happened in the courtyard. "I'm sorry," Tyler said, the words clearly difficult for him. "What I did yesterday, it wasn't cool. I was being a jerk." Maya blinked, momentarily speechless. Of all the scenarios she'd imagined for their next encounter, an apology hadn't been one of them. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked, genuinely curious. Tyler shifted his weight, uncomfortable under her direct gaze. "Coach Davis found out what happened. Not just that we got detention, but why. Turns out Mrs. Nguyen has a son who trains at the same dojo as you. She knew exactly what went down." Maya winced. Master Wu would not be pleased to hear one of his students had used their training outside the dojo, even in self-defense. "Anyway," Tyler continued, "Coach made it clear that if I want to stay on the team, I need to address my behavioral issues." His words. He made air quotes with his fingers. "Part of that is apologizing to you." "Ah, so not a voluntary apology after all." Maya tried to ignore the twinge of disappointment. "You don't need to apologize because your coach told you to," she said. "Let's just forget it happened." She turned to go, but Tyler's next word stopped her. "Wait, that came out wrong." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "Yes, Coach made me come talk to you. But the apology, that's real. I've been thinking about what happened and you were right to do what you did. I was being a bully. The word hung between them, bully. So simple, so accurate, and yet Maya had never expected to hear Tyler say it about himself. I'm not saying we're going to be friends or anything, he added quickly, but I wanted you to know that I get it now. And it won't happen again. Not to you, not to anyone else. Maya studied his face looking for signs of deception, but all she saw was discomfort and something that might have been genuine remorse. Thank you for saying that, she said finally. I appreciate it. Tyler nodded, then glanced around the cafeteria where dozens of students were still watching them with undisguised interest. So we still have detention after school? Yes, we do. Want to walk there together? Might as well get our stories straight before Mrs. Nguyen starts the interrogation. Despite everything, Maya found herself smiling. Sure, I'll meet you at the main office. As she walked back to her table, where Raj, Priya, and Leon were waiting with expressions of mingled concern and curiosity, Maya realized that the tight knot of anxiety she'd carried in her chest for so long had loosened slightly. The rest of the day passed in a blur of classes and whispers. By the time the final bell rang, Maya had answered the question, "Did you really flip Tyler Brooks?" so many times that she was considering printing business cards with the response. She met Tyler outside the main office as promised. They walked to detention in silence, but it wasn't the tense, awkward silence of enemies. It was something else, something Maya couldn't quite define. Mrs. Nguyen was waiting for them in the detention room, a stack of papers on the desk in front of her. Mr. Brooks, Miss Chen, right on time. Please take seats at opposite ends of the room. They did as instructed, settling in for the hour ahead. Mrs. Nguyen handed each of them a sheet of paper. Today, instead of sitting in silence, you'll be writing. The prompt is, a time I misjudged someone and what I learned from it. 1 page, front and back. Begin now. Maya stared at the blank page, pen hovering over the paper. A week ago, this assignment would have been difficult. She'd spent so long trying to blend into the background that she rarely formed judgments about others, let alone reconsidered them. But now, glancing across the room at Tyler, who was chewing his pen cap with a look of intense concentration, she realized she had plenty to write about. She'd misjudged Tyler as being one-dimensional, just as he'd misjudged her as weak. They'd both been wrong. As her pen touched paper and words began to flow, Maya felt something shift within her. The shy girl who'd walked into school yesterday still existed, but alongside her was someone new, someone who had found her voice and wasn't afraid to use it. The whispers and stares would fade eventually. What would remain was the knowledge that she was stronger than she'd thought, in more ways than one. A week after the incident in the courtyard, life at Westlake High had settled into a new normal. The whispers still followed Maya through the hallways, but they had lost their urgent excitement, becoming background noise she could almost ignore. The story of how she had flipped Tyler Brooks was old news now, replaced by fresher gossip about who was taking whom to the upcoming fall dance. For Maya, the biggest change wasn't how others saw her, but how she saw herself. She walked taller now, her gaze level instead of fixed on the ground. She still preferred quiet corners to crowded rooms, still chose books over parties, but there was a confidence in her movements that hadn't been there before. Earth to Maya. Raj waved a hand in front of her face, snapping her out of her thoughts. Did you hear anything I just said? They were sitting at what had become their regular lunch table in the cafeteria. Maya, Raj, Priya, and Leon. Sometimes they were joined by others, students who had never noticed Maya before but were now curious about the girl who stood up to Tyler Brooks. Sorry, Maya said. I was thinking about the physics test. Right, the physics test, Raj said skeptically. Not the fact that Tyler Brooks has been staring at you for the last 10 minutes. Maya refused to turn around and look. He has not. Oh, he definitely has, Priya confirmed, glancing over Maya's shoulder. Not in a creepy way. More like he's trying to figure something out. Maybe he's plotting his revenge, Leon suggested, then quickly added, Kidding. Just kidding. Maya shook her head. He's not plotting anything. We've barely spoken since detention last week. This wasn't entirely true. They had exchanged nods in the hallway, even a few words when they bumped into each other at the water fountain. Nothing significant, but not the hostile silence she might have expected either. Well, you might want to brace yourself because he's coming over here right now, Priya said under her breath. Maya's back stiffened. Sure enough, moments later, Tyler appeared beside their table, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Hey," he said, addressing Maya while carefully avoiding eye contact with the others. "Can I talk to you for a second?" Maya glanced at her friends who were watching with undisguised curiosity. "Sure," she said, standing up. "I'll be right back, guys." She followed Tyler to a relatively quiet corner near the vending machines, where he turned to face her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I need your help," he said without preamble. Of all the things Maya had expected him to say, this wasn't on the list. "My help with what?" Tyler shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. "Coach Davis is making me do this. This anti-bullying project thing. Part of my rehabilitation program." He made air quotes around the words. "I have to create a presentation about conflict resolution and present it to the freshman orientation next month." Maya waited, still not seeing how this involved her. "The thing is," Tyler continued, "I don't know anything about that stuff. But you do. The way you handled things that day in the courtyard, it was like you knew exactly what to do. No panic, no screaming, just control." Maya blinked, surprised by his observation. "That's just my training. Master Wu says that control in a conflict starts with controlling yourself. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about." Tyler ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Maya had come to recognize as a sign of his frustration. "Look, I know we're not friends. I know I've been a jerk to you and pretty much everyone else, but I have to do this project and I want it to be good, not just to get Coach off my back, but because—" He trailed off, struggling to find the words. "Because what?" Maya prompted. Tyler met her eyes, and for a moment his usual confidence was replaced by something more vulnerable. "Because maybe I'm tired of being that guy, the one everyone's afraid of. It used to feel good, you know? Having that power. But lately it just feels empty." Maya studied him, looking for signs of deception. Finding none, she asked, "So what exactly are you asking me to do? Help me create something that actually matters. Something that might actually help those freshmen deal with jerks like—" He gestured to himself. "Well, like I was?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "I'm trying not to be," Tyler amended with a small smile. "I'm a work in progress." Despite herself, Maya smiled back. "Aren't we all?" She considered his request. On one hand, the idea of spending extra time with Tyler Brooks would have been unthinkable 2 weeks ago. On the other hand, if he was genuinely trying to change, wasn't that something worth supporting? "When would we work on this?" she asked finally. "After school? Maybe at the library?" Tyler suggested. "I have practice until 5, but after that I'm free." Maya thought about her own schedule. She had training at Master Wu's on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. "I could do tomorrow after school, Thursday." "Great," Tyler said, looking relieved. "That works. Meet at the library at 5:15? Maya nodded. "I'll be there." As she walked back to her friends who were watching the exchange with undisguised interest, Maya tried to make sense of what had just happened. Was she really going to help Tyler Brooks, the guy who had bullied countless students, including herself? The guy who, until a week ago, she had done everything possible to avoid? What was that about? Raj asked as soon as she sat down. Maya hesitated, then decided on the truth. "He asked for my help with an anti-bullying project." 3 pairs of eyes stared at her in disbelief. "Tyler Brooks," Leon said slowly, "is doing an anti-bullying project. And he asked you for help," Priya added. "The world has officially gone mad," Raj concluded, shaking his head. Maya shrugged. "People can change." "Sure, people can change," Leon agreed. "But Tyler Brooks, the guy who put gum in my saxophone last year, the guy who called me band geek for an entire semester? I'm not saying he's suddenly a saint," Maya said. "Just that he seems to be trying. Isn't that worth something?" Her friends exchanged glances, clearly skeptical. But the bell rang before they could argue further, saving Maya from having to defend a decision she wasn't entirely sure of herself. The next day after school, Maya found herself pacing outside the public library, second-guessing her decision to help Tyler. What if this was all some elaborate setup? What if he was just using her to complete his assignment, with no real intention of changing? But when Tyler arrived, slightly out of breath and with damp hair suggesting he'd showered in a hurry after practice, he seemed genuinely pleased to see her. "You came," he said, as if he'd half expected her to stand him up. "I said I would," Maya replied simply. They found a quiet table in the back of the library, away from the middle school students doing homework and the elderly patrons browsing magazines. For a few awkward minutes, neither spoke, the weight of their history hanging between them. So, Maya finally broke the silence. What exactly is this project supposed to be? Tyler pulled a crumpled assignment sheet from his backpack. Coach says it has to be informative and impactful, whatever that means. It's supposed to help freshmen understand how to handle conflict and bullying situations. Maya took the paper, scanning the requirements. This is actually a good idea, she said, surprised. Teaching younger students how to deal with bullying before it becomes a bigger problem. Yeah, well, Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Coach Davis isn't just a jock stereotype. He majored in psychology before he started teaching. Maya raised her eyebrows. I didn't know that. There's a lot you don't know about people, Tyler said, then quickly added. Not just you specifically. Everyone. We all make assumptions based on what we see on the surface. Maya thought about how she had judged Tyler as one-dimensional, just as he had judged her as weak. You're right, she admitted. So maybe that's where we start the presentation. With assumptions and how they can lead to conflicts. Tyler's face brightened. That's good. Really good. And then we could talk about how to challenge those assumptions. Exactly. And about recognizing your own power in a situation, even when you feel powerless. As they brainstormed, the initial awkwardness faded. Ideas flowed more freely, and Maya found herself surprised by Tyler's insights. He understood the psychology of bullying from the inside, in a way she never could. The thing is, he said at one point, leaning forward intently, when you're the one doing the bullying, you don't see it that way. You tell yourself you're just joking around, or that the other person deserves it somehow. You don't think about the damage you're doing. What changed for you? Maya asked, genuinely curious. Tyler was quiet for a moment, considering. Honestly, when you flipped me onto my back that day, it wasn't just physically shocking, it was like my whole worldview got flipped too. Suddenly I was the one feeling helpless, feeling embarrassed, and I realized that's how I've been making other people feel for years. He looked down at his hands. And then when you didn't tell Mrs. Nguyen what really happened, when you could have gotten me in serious trouble, that really messed with my head. It didn't fit with what I thought I knew about how the world works. Maya hadn't thought of it that way. She hadn't reported him not out of kindness, but because she'd been afraid of the consequences, afraid of drawing more attention to herself. But maybe the reason didn't matter as much as the impact. So we include that in the presentation, she said. How one action, one moment of standing up for yourself or for someone else can change the dynamic. They worked for nearly 2 hours, outlining the presentation and debating different approaches. By the time the library announced it would be closing in 15 minutes, they had a solid plan and a list of resources to look into. This is really good, Tyler said, looking at their notes with satisfaction. Way better than anything I could have come up with on my own. It's a start, Maya agreed. We'll need at least one more session to finalize everything. Same time next week? Tyler suggested. Or we could meet at school if that's easier for you. The idea of being seen working with Tyler at school made Maya hesitate. Not because she was embarrassed, but because she wasn't ready for the questions it would raise, the assumptions people would make. The library is fine, she said. Next Thursday. As they packed up their things, Tyler cleared his throat. Listen, I know your friends probably think you're crazy for helping me. I just want you to know I appreciate it. And I'm not going to waste this chance. The sincerity in his voice caught Maya off guard. Everyone deserves a second chance, she said, echoing one of Master Wu's favorite sayings. The question is what you do with it. They walked out of the library together, parting ways at the bottom of the steps. As Maya headed home, she found herself smiling. The world hadn't gone mad, as Raj had suggested. It had just gotten a little more complicated, a little more interesting, and maybe, just maybe, a little better. The auditorium buzzed with nervous energy as 150 freshmen fidgeted in their seats. Orientation day was always a mix of excitement and anxiety. New beginnings wrapped in unfamiliar surroundings. On stage, Principal Rivera was introducing the next segment of the program. And now, I'd like to welcome 2 of our upperclassmen who will be speaking about conflict resolution and creating a positive school culture. Please give your attention to Tyler Brooks and Maya Chen. A smattering of polite applause filled the room as Maya and Tyler walked onto the stage. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. Public speaking was near the top of her list of fears, right between spiders and airplane turbulence. But when she glanced at Tyler, She saw he looked just as nervous, running a hand through his hair and adjusting his collar. "You okay?" he whispered as they took their places at the podium. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. They had prepared extensively for this moment, meeting 3 more times at the library to perfect their presentation. What had started as Tyler's assignment had evolved into something they both believed in. But believing in something and presenting it to a crowd were 2 very different things. Tyler stepped up to the microphone first, as they had planned. His confident smile was back in place, though Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. "Hey everyone, welcome to Westlake High." His voice echoed through the auditorium. "I'm Tyler Brooks, senior captain of the basketball team. 3 years ago I was sitting where you are now thinking I had it all figured out." He paused, scanning the crowd. "I didn't. And one of the biggest things I got wrong was how I treated other people. See, I thought that being strong meant making others feel weak. I thought respect came from fear. I was what you'd call a bully, and I hurt a lot of people." A murmur rippled through the audience. This was clearly not the typical welcome speech they had expected. 2 months ago, something happened that changed my perspective, Tyler continued. I tried to intimidate someone I thought was an easy target. Turns out I was wrong, and getting proven wrong was the best thing that could have happened to me. He turned and gestured to Maya. "My friend Maya here taught me an important lesson, not just about assumptions, but about real strength. I'm going to let her tell you about that." Maya took a deep breath as she stepped up to the microphone. "Friend." Tyler had called her his friend, and the strange thing was it didn't feel wrong. "Hi," she began, her voice softer than Tyler's but steady. "I'm Maya Chen. Until recently, most people at this school didn't know my name. I was just the quiet girl who always had her nose in a book, the one who never raised her hand in class even when she knew the answer. The one who ate lunch alone in the courtyard." She paused, making eye contact with a few of the freshmen in the front row. She saw herself in their anxious faces, the uncertainty, the hope that high school wouldn't be as scary as they feared. What no one knew was that I've been training in martial arts since I was 10 years old. Not to hurt people, but to build confidence, discipline, and respect. When Tyler and I had our disagreement, this earned a few knowing chuckles from the staff members present. I used that training to stand up for myself, not with anger or aggression, but with control. Maya glanced at Tyler, who gave her an encouraging nod. "What we want to talk to you about today isn't just bullying. It's about the power dynamics that exist in every school, every workplace, every community, and most importantly, about how you can navigate those dynamics in ways that make life better for everyone, including yourself." For the next 20 minutes, they took turns speaking, sharing personal experiences and practical advice. Tyler talked openly about why he had bullied others, the pressure he felt to maintain his status, the way he confused fear with respect, the hollow feeling that came with knowing people only hung around him because they were afraid not to. Maya spoke about the flip side, how staying invisible seemed safer than risking rejection, how silence can become a prison of its own making, how true strength often looks nothing like the movies portray it. Together, they outlined strategies for handling conflict, recognizing when to walk away and when to stand firm, finding allies, reporting serious concerns to trusted adults, and perhaps most importantly, seeing the humanity in everyone, even those who seemed most determined to hide it. As they neared the end of their presentation, Maya stepped back up to the microphone. "We'd like to try something a little different now," she said. "We've prepared a short demonstration to show how physical control relates to emotional control in conflict situations." This wasn't part of the original plan they'd submitted to Principal Rivera. They had approached her with the idea just 2 days ago, half expecting her to say no. Instead, she had watched their demonstration in her office and given her enthusiastic approval. Maya and Tyler moved to the center of the stage, where the maintenance staff had placed a small mat. "One of the first things you learn in martial arts," Maya explained, addressing the now fully attentive audience, "is how to fall safely. Before you learn any techniques, you learn how to protect yourself. Tyler?" Tyler stepped onto the mat and demonstrated the break fall they had practiced, slapping the mat as he went down to disperse the impact. "The second thing you learn," Maya continued, "is that physical confrontation should always be the last resort. But if you can't avoid it, the goal isn't to hurt the other person, it's to control the situation with minimal harm to everyone involved." They moved into a series of carefully choreographed demonstrations, Tyler grabbing Maya's wrist, Maya using leverage rather than strength to break free, Maya pushing against Tyler's chest, Tyler redirecting her momentum rather than blocking it head-on. These physical principles, Tyler took over the explanation, apply to verbal and social conflicts too. When someone pushes your buttons trying to make you angry or afraid, you have choices. You can push back harder, which usually escalates the situation. He demonstrated by physically pushing against Maya, who pushed back, both of them ending up in a struggle. Or you can redirect that energy, Maya said, showing how she could step aside and guide Tyler's push in a different direction, causing him to stumble past her without any real collision. The same goes for rumors. Insults or social pressure, Tyler added. You can fight fire with fire, which just creates a bigger fire, or you can choose a different response entirely. They concluded the demonstration, and the auditorium erupted in applause much louder than the polite clapping that had greeted their arrival. Maya felt her cheeks flush with a mixture of embarrassment and pride. She caught sight of Principal Rivera nodding approvingly from the side of the stage. "Before we finish," Tyler said, returning to the microphone, "there's something I want to say to all of you, but especially to anyone who thinks that intimidating others is the way to make your mark here. I've been that person. I know the rush that comes from feeling powerful at someone else's expense. But I also know now how empty that feeling is compared to the real connections you can make when you choose respect over fear." He looked at Maya with genuine admiration. Real strength isn't about making others feel small. It's about having the courage to be yourself and allowing others to do the same. It took someone half my size flipping me onto my back to teach me that lesson. This got a laugh from the audience, including some of the teachers who had clearly heard about the infamous courtyard incident. "So as you start your journey at Westlake High," Maya concluded, "remember that you have more power than you might think. Not power over others, but power over how you respond to challenges, how you treat people who are different from you, and most importantly, how you see yourself." As they left the stage to enthusiastic applause, Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Not just the relief of finishing a dreaded public speech, but something deeper, as if in telling her story, she had finally fully claimed it as her own. Principal Rivera wrapped up the assembly, and the freshmen were directed to their tour groups. As Maya and Tyler gathered their notes, Coach Davis approached them, beaming with pride. "That," he said, clapping Tyler on the shoulder, "was not just the best anti-bullying presentation I've seen in 20 years of teaching. It was the most honest." Tyler's face lit up at the praise. "Thanks, Coach. We worked hard on it." It showed. Coach Davis turned to Maya. "And thank you, young lady, for giving this knucklehead a chance to prove he can be more than his worst behavior." Maya smiled. "He did all the hard work. I just helped with the presentation." "Modest too," Coach said with a wink. "No wonder you've been such a good influence." He checked his watch. "I've got to run. Basketball team meeting in 10 minutes. Tyler, don't be late." As Coach walked away, Tyler turned to Maya with a look of embarrassed gratitude. "He's right, you know, about you giving me a chance." "Not everyone would have done that," Maya shrugged. "Master Wu always says that true victory isn't defeating an enemy, it's turning an enemy into a friend. Is that what we are now?" Tyler asked, his tone light but his eyes serious. "Friends?" Maya considered the question. 2 months ago, the idea would have seemed impossible. Tyler Brooks had represented everything she feared about high school: the social hierarchy, the casual cruelty, the valuing of appearance over substance. But the person standing before her now was more complex than the bully she had flipped onto his back that day in the courtyard. "I think we are," she said finally. "Unlikely friends, but yes." Tyler grinned, relief evident on his face. "Good. Because I was thinking, if you're not doing anything Saturday, maybe we could grab coffee and talk about starting an actual conflict resolution group at school." Principal Rivera seemed pretty excited about the idea when I mentioned it. "A conflict resolution group?" Maya repeated, intrigued despite herself. "Led by the former biggest bully in school and the girl who took him down?" "Exactly," Tyler laughed. "Who better? We've lived both sides of it." Maya thought about how much had changed since that day in the courtyard. She had gone from invisible to visible, from silent to heard. She had made real friends, Raj, Priya, and Leon, who had come to accept her regular meetings with Tyler even if they didn't fully understand them. And now, perhaps most surprisingly of all, Tyler himself. "I'd like that," she said. "Saturday works for me." As they walked out of the auditorium together, Maya caught sight of a small freshman girl pressed against the wall, trying to become invisible as a group of louder students passed by. Without hesitation, Maya changed direction, Tyler following her lead. "Hey," she said gently to the girl, whose eyes widened in surprise at being noticed. "I'm Maya, this is Tyler. First day can be pretty overwhelming, huh?" The girl nodded, relief washing over her face at this simple acknowledgement. "Want to walk with us to the cafeteria?" Tyler offered. "We can show you some shortcuts." As the three of them headed down the hallway, Maya felt a sense of completion. The circle that had begun with fear and conflict had transformed into something unexpected and valuable. She had changed, Tyler had changed, and maybe, just maybe, they could help others change too. Not a bad outcome for 10 seconds of courage in a high school courtyard.